The closest I tend to get to religious films is rewatching the greatest film about Jesus ever made, the original RoboCop. Now, there are several reasons for this. I'm not a man of faith myself, so I find these films have about as much to offer me as my last barbecue had to offer a vegan friend of mine, and that's because these films literally preach to the choir and couldn't give two figs for atheist scum like me. Secondly, they tend to stay in their own little tepid paddling pool of directed DVD releases, digital downloads, and knowing that their place is not in the multiplex where the proper films live. But every now and then, one of these films takes a deep breath, puts on its big boy trousers and demands to be treated like a real film, at which point critics like me figure that the low-hanging fruit is there for a reason and decide to see who can conduct the most acidic autopsy. Because they are all, without fail, awful. God's Not Dead 1 and 2 was awful. War Room was awful. The RoboCop remake was awful. Because they are all the same. Bland, safe, tedious, syrupy messes that don't really have any point and purpose other than to say, God is awesome and you should never ever question him, her, they, it in any way, shape or form, you simple peasant. The fact that The Shack also seems to have ripped off the plotline from the abominable Collateral Beauty meant that I was all but searching for the extra strong acid and extra sharp knives. But then I looked into the film. Yes, shockingly, I'm actually reading this off of a script, and discovered that in 2005, William Paul Young was working 3 jobs and living in an apartment with his wife and 4 of his 6 children after losing his home to bankruptcy. He started writing a novel during his daily 40-minute train commute, hoping to express his feelings about God to his children, since he couldn't afford to buy holiday gifts. He expected his family and maybe a few friends to read it. The book sold over 20 million copies and was turned into the film I'm eventually going to review, so maybe there's something here. And as always, my expectations were checked at the door, and I did stupidly allow myself a glimmer of hope, as this had the opportunity to actually attempt to deal with some of the trickier aspects of faith. Why do bad things happen to good people? Why doesn't God directly intervene? How does Sam Worthington keep getting work? What on earth made Octavia Spencer get involved in this thing? Why did I get a nosebleed the exact second I asked Megan McDewey to dance? And was I supposed to cut the blue wire? Sadly, none of these questions are dealt with. This is a film in which a dad whose daughter was murdered by a serial killer then just gets an invitation to spend the weekend with the Father, the Son and the Holy Ghost. No ambiguity, he just gets a letter out of the blue to spend the weekend crashing with the Holy Trinity. None of the questions the main character, I think he had a name but I can't be bothered to find out, asked were anywhere close to being answered, thanks to God's habit of speaking like the Oracle from the Matrix trilogy, with actual lines including, "Pain robs you of joy and the capacity to love," and "When you focus on pain, you lose sight of me." Yeah, I managed to take a lot of notes during my almost private screening. The serial killer, whoever they are, is forgiven without being identified, caught, locked up as they apparently are in the novel, because why would the audience care about a serial killer of young girls being brought to justice? Seriously, it would have been better if she had just run away and then came back at the end of the film, because the serial killer aspect just left a really bad taste in my mouth. Worthington still can't act. Spencer is far too good for this, and the others are fine, I guess. Blandly workmanlike is the best way to describe them. And it's just as dull, syrupy and safe as I was dreading. All shot in bright sunlight and everyone looking perfect at all times, even when they're supposed to be in the midst of a spiritual crisis. Although that might have been the result of them blowing the budget on Spencer. At 90 minutes, this might not have been too bad, but at 132 minutes, and the book is only 256 pages, I promise, editing is not the devil's scissors hacking your masterpiece to shreds. Scout's honour. I went into The Shack looking for something with some teeth, asking questions of faith and the meaning of justice and fairness in a seemingly unfair universe, but instead found just another awful, smug, self-righteous film, ill served by a script that confuses spiritual uplift with melodramatic cliches and heavy-handed sermonizing. It had nothing to offer me and seemingly no interest in doing so. Fine. 2 can play that game. This is a fire film. Skip it at all costs. Now, if you'll excuse me, I'm off to watch that other film where people meet gods at a cabin in the woods. But what did you guys think? And what's been your most disappointing film this year so far? Comment below, let me know. I'm Daniel, this has been A Dunking. If you've enjoyed this video, please like, share and subscribe.